Hey, thanks for joining us on the Recovery Vow podcast. Today's episode, I'm pretty excited. I met these friends at one of our EXO conferences back February 2024. So I've got Andrew and Natasha here, and they're going to share their story that EXO has shared in the past when it comes to recovery and infidelity. But then there's also this new story of getting back home and having a spouse who is just truly and really sick and needs your help after these other things that have happened. So I think this is going to be a great episode. I want you just to sit back and listen. If you're watching, you can follow us or subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. But all of our other platforms, you can stream on all of your favorite platforms, and we'd love to have you listen in. So sit down or sit back and just enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Recovery Vow podcast. I'm your host, Eric Kennedy. All right, so you guys started you had this 10-hour conversation on your first date, talked for like a week, and then you considered yourself dating. How long did you guys date before you got married?
We dated for
a year and a half.
Okay.
Before we got
That seems normal to me.
Yes.
Yeah, that seems quite normal. These younger folks, they blow my mind. I'm so glad I'm not out there.
No,
I have to worry about
there's
dating.
no way we can do it again. No way.
Dating is awful.
Yeah.
And then we got engaged and then got married days later.
Yeah, so we just eloped, really. I was in Greece on a school trip, and so he was joking when I was gone. He was like,
I wasn't joking.
Well, he wasn't joking, but when I was gone, he kept saying, when you get back, we're going to get married. We're going to get married. And I was like, whatever, it's fine. Whatever, dude. You just missed me. That's all. And so when I got back, he was like, I'm serious. I want to get married. And in Texas, you have to wait 3 days. So we went and got our marriage license. And then 3 days later, we just got married.
At the courthouse.
Well, we had a friend that was leaving April 2nd that I had worked with in the ER. His wife was a nurse in surgery with her. And they were leaving healthcare to be full-time missionaries in Zambia. And this was like March 30th or something. We were telling him about it. He's like, we're leaving April 2nd. So you got us on April 1st. So we got married on April 1st.
People's travel plans and love, you just can't hold back. We'll see you at the wedding.
Yeah.
All right. So walk me through, got married, but then these things happen.
Right.
These big things that brought your story to EXO, and for thousands and thousands of people have heard your story, but there's going to be listeners that this isn't their first time. So tell us, what caused a mishap in the home that led you to a recovery vow having to happen. So
when I met him, he had told me that he had a back injury from lifting weights and sports in general and all that. And that he had a prescription, taking prescription painkillers for that. And that's not uncommon. There's a lot of people that have back injuries or injuries in general, and they take prescription painkillers. And that's just what it is. It was about 6 months in that I noticed he takes a little bit more than he probably should.
What's a little bit more than what you probably should?
So usually you take 1 to 2 every 4 to 6 hours, 1 to 2 pain pills. And he was taking 2 to 4 pretty regular every 4 hours. But he was functioning. And so it was a little bit of a red flag, but not a huge red flag, because he could still work and function and be present and not slurring, didn't look like out of it, any of that stuff. And so I just thought, well, he's hurting and he needs these pain pills.
Had built up a tolerance.
Yeah, he had built up a tolerance to it. And so it did get to the point where he was trying some other things to help with his back, and they weren't working. And he started acting amiss. And it got to the point where he was slurring. He would be passed out on the couch in the middle of the afternoon, for no reason. And I'm like, why are you sleeping so much? You're taking a lot of pills. And I didn't know that it had escalated to some other things.
So when you're taking this amount of pills, some people are going to be like, well, he's taking 1 or 2 extra pills, but you're taking that at this point to have a different feeling than what they were supposed to be giving you. Were you drinking with them too?
I would some at night.
Yeah. Because I remember like when I used to take, if people had pills when I was drinking, of course you're going to offer it, I'm going to pack it. But there's a certain thing with Percocet. Like if I took a couple of Percocets and then drank with it, it's a euphoric,
like an accelerant. Like, yeah.
So it's,
and I've never been a fan of alcohol. Like it's not my thing, but it would magnify it.
Yeah. Now I want to say this too before you guys keep going, because I want listeners to hear this. Like when we talk about hard conversations, I don't want to bring anything up that's going to cause hard conversations after this moment. So
right.
if there's something that you guys don't want to talk about,
I mean, it's out there. We've talked about it.
But I mean, you've had some things come up since,
right.
The health and all that. So lead us through the big rock bottom moment in your marriage before.
So I was on a medical mission in Honduras, and this was at the end,
2015, October 2015.
October of 2015. We had already gotten married, and at that point, I think he had tried to stop taking pills, and cut back, but it just didn't work for him. He tried on his own with no help or anything like that.
Cold turkey one day.
And it just
brutal.
It was bad. And so I knew he had started taking pills again. And so I was in Honduras, and I get back.
You were pregnant at the time too.
Yeah, I had found out I was pregnant. And so when I got back from there, he picked me up from the airport, and I could tell he was just like he was a mess. And he said, I got fired from the hospital. And I said, what happened? Like, why would you get fired for, and he eventually came out and told me, I got caught stealing medications.
Yeah, because my other question before, when you said you were taking so much, was, well, how are you getting them?
Right.
And this was before the whole opioid pandemic awareness or whatever. So doctors didn't have a problem left and right. Here you go.
And so at that point, I knew he had a real problem. I knew he had a problem before, but this was on another level. I mean, he's a nurse, and he got caught stealing medications and got fired from a hospital, and then got turned into the board of nursing for that. And so then it comes out, I'm like, you have to be honest here. Like, what is the extent of this? And it wasn't just pills at that time. He was stealing, was it fentanyl?
Just anything.
Anything. So when we give medications in the ER as nurses, if we don't give the full dose, we waste it, is what we call it. And so you have to get another registered nurse to come in, and they watch you pour out this medication. So morphine.
Toilet or
sink, usually in like a Sharps container.
Or Sharps container, or they have an area that's just for the waste. But it's, morphine, fentanyl, those kind of controlled substances.
Because I was thinking, like, what are you guys doing with leftover fentanyl?
Right.
How do you dispose of it?
So that's how we dispose of it. Usually you get another nurse, you have another RN in there, and you say, hey, this is what I'm going to waste. I gave this much, this is what's left. And they say, okay. And they, write that they've witnessed that waste. And so it's just so easy, though, when you work in that environment and with people that you trust, to just be like, hey, I got it.
Especially if you're busy.
Yes. And so he explained that a lot of the times with the waste, he would just keep it. And so he wouldn't waste it. He'd put it in his pocket, and then he was injecting morphine and fentanyl IV.
It happened just by accident one day. We were busy, had a trauma come into the ER, and pulled some meds. Everybody was running around, and I just set the vial in my pocket and thought I'd deal with it later, and had totally forgot about it. And then got home and was like, what's in my pocket? And I pulled it out, and I was like, well, this is medicine. Like, somebody tried to rationalize, like, I just can't throw it away. And so I had set it up in a cabinet and left it there for a while. And then it got to where it became a common thing, and it was like, well, I'll never mess with it. I'm not that type of person.
But you kept it in the house.
Yeah. And then over time, I had a collection. And then one day it was like, maybe just a little, just to see. And then it just snowballed.
Yeah. And when you found it,
Yeah.
because women are cut different. What was the first thought you had? Was it to like, okay, this is not the marriage I want, or do I want to help my husband?
Well, I felt stuck because I was pregnant
With twins.
with twins. And I felt like I had walked through that season of the pills with him and thought, we were through it. And so I think I felt a lot of grief, really, because I thought everything is a lie. Everything, that I thought was true is a lie. And this person that I thought I knew is not this person. And you just start thinking about every scenario. You go back and you think, well, that makes sense now, why he was falling asleep on the couch or couldn't have a conversation, or we'd watched a movie and he couldn't remember that we even watched that movie, and those kind of things. And so there was grief in that. And then I almost felt like I had to fight for him because nobody was.
And it's hard to see your husband.
Yeah.
I mean, he's struggling. He's got something he's dealing with.
Yeah. I mean, and you hit rock bottom at the point where everybody knows. I mean, and a lot of nurses work
Small
at different
town, everybody knows.
Everybody knows. Nurses work at a couple different hospitals, just kind of everywhere. And so then the word gets out, hey, this is what happened. I was teaching at a nursing school at that time. And so I was teaching nurses, things about legal and ethical issues. And then they're like, well, your husband just got, fired for stealing medications. I'm like, yeah, he did.
Yep.
You're right.
Did it hurt your job?
It didn't. And I actually work there now. And so I work with a lot of great women, and they're Christian women. And there was a lot of grace in that. And my boss, she just had so much grace, and she actually taught him in nursing school.
So once something like that happens or it gets put on your record, can you ever bounce back from it and go back to your line of work?
I had a year of a whole bunch of stuff I had to do, and random drug tests once a week for 6 months or something, and eventually went through everything, and it's back to normal now.
Okay. Now, when I met you guys, we were telling that story at EXO. Mm-hmm. You guys have been known in the EXO world through that story. And there's some other things that go along with the story too, right? There's some infidelity.
Yes.
And then, so let's talk about that, because there's going to be listeners where they're dealing with a spouse that, yes, is in some kind of addiction, some kind of a substance addiction, process addiction, porn. And so those types of addictions, process addiction, leads to this kind of addiction.
Right.
So not only did you get all this news of, hey, my husband's lost his job, he's got this issue, but then how soon after did you find out about the other issue?
So I found out he was having an affair in 2017. So that would have been 2 years after. And that wasn't happening while he was using medications. That happened after he had gotten clean and was working again.
Back from the board, and
he was working again. But he had never really gotten to the root of the issue. So the pills were masking, the trauma and the pain that he had never dealt with, and just kind of suppressed it. And so, we've done a lot of counseling and talked to counselors about this. When there is an addiction and you don't deal with the root of the issue, it's going to come back in a different form.
Substitute one for another.
Right.
Gotcha.
And so that dopamine hit of, hey, I'm not supposed to be doing this, but I am, and sneaking around and hiding and getting that dopamine hit, that just replaced that pain pill, in a sense. And so I found out in the end of 2017 that he was having an affair. with a coworker. And it was devastating for us.
We had sold our house and moved in with her parents when all that happened.
We were in the process of building a house. And so, we were living with my parents. And then I found that out, and he, of course, moved out, and we were separated.
So divorce was talked about.
Yes. Divorce was planned on.
And then we had met with our pastor at the time. This was January-ish.
Yeah.
And he had a Jimmy Evans book up on his desk and was talking about XO. And he was like, y'all should really look into going to this. And we were like, we'll go, but we're going separate.
Yeah, I didn't want to go, but I was like, really, my mindset was, I'm just here to say I did it and did everything, and almost justify in my mind, like, I have which I knew I did have every reason to leave. I did. But really, it was like just an extra check mark for me to do that.
Because there's just a little bit left in there where you may want to fight for your marriage.
Well, and I knew he was hurting, and I knew the issues that he was trying to mask with doing this. And a lot of thing with addiction too is you have self-destructive behaviors. And so you self-sabotage, and you do these things because you think you're not worthy of having somebody that loves you or cares for you or any of those things. And so I kept telling him, you're just doing these things because you would rather self-destruct before anything bad can happen to you, or I can leave you, or whatever.
Then I could at least say, well, it was my fault. I caused it.
Do you think that those things that you dealt with, is that from a traumatic issue that happened when you were younger?
When I was in the 8th grade, my mom got sick, and she was like my person growing up. And about 2.5 years later, she passed away. Nobody could ever figure out what was wrong with her. And so it was like August of 2004, before my junior year, that she passed away. And going through church, it was like all I was told was pray for a miracle. God can heal her, pray for a miracle. And then she dies, and it's instantly, she's in a better place, move on. And I'm like, well, I know she is, but what do I do? And my dad had taken a new job where he was gone a ton. And so I spent a lot of time at home alone. And thankfully, I never drank back then. I never tried anything. I just buried myself in sports and any kind of competitive thing. And so I'd never dealt with that. And then I can remember when I was on pain meds one night, laying on my couch at home thinking, this is the first time I haven't felt that.
It was because you're on pain meds?
Yeah. And I thought, I don't have to feel that every day. Like, these can keep me from having to carry that. And so when all this happened, I still had never went back and dealt with any of that. It was rough.
That sounds like it's a tough spot. So when you got invited to come through the XO, when we say you came to XO, y'all went through mediation?
No, this was before all that.
Yeah, this was in 2018. We went to the conference. It was our first conference. And so we were separated when we went to that conference. What
happened at that conference? Did something happen at that conference that made your mind start changing?
Absolutely. I mean, the spirit moved. And the thing was, too, what people were talking about hard things like infidelity, communication. I mean, all these things where
we'd never gotten in church.
No. And I think we have done a huge disservice as the church by not talking about the hard things, and letting people talk about those things, and, having a platform for those things. And XO did that. And so that was the first time I had really heard people on a stage in front of a, large crowd talking about these issues that you would think, oh, people don't talk about those. That's your business that you keep behind closed doors, and you don't talk about those things. Yeah. And so it was so refreshing to me to think, I'm not alone in this. People struggle with things, and there's a way out.
And there's a whole room full of a bunch of people probably dealing with similar.
That's what happened to me with sobriety. I heard other people's stories.
Yeah.
And if I can hear of, Andrew and Natasha, Paul, whoever, going through some of the similar things I went through, but then this is what the other side looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
It's good.
It gives you a little hope.
Because then you know that, well, you're talking about infidelity. Some people are just going to immediately check out. But if you could hear, I'm not saying that this is what's going to fix it, so don't go out and do it. But you hear that other people can get through it.
Yes.
There's some importance in that.
And we're at a place now where we've never been.
Yeah.
Never.
I mean, not saying that nothing has happened since then, because things happen. He did relapse, those kind of things. But we've been in counseling for how long?
Years.
4 years?
Probably.
Or consistently for 4 years. We go to marriage counseling at least once a month.
Sometimes people are like, what's wrong?
I know, immediately. When I'm like, oh, we have counseling, they're like, why? What's wrong?
Some people just go.
Yeah. Like, we look forward to it because I'm like, our kids aren't there. We don't have a phone. There's no TV. And we can just get to sit and talk about what's going on in life.
But that has been key for us. And I think really for him, that has been the foundation, is being able to have consistent counseling, and then having people in his life, community, guys around him that have struggled with addiction in different forms, and that hold him accountable.
Yeah, you got to have that.
Yeah, you have to.
So when you were going through the counseling and they were telling you about the person in the addiction or the person that caused the issues, did they create things for you to do to help get through it other than just talking to you or giving you a space to vent?
It was really just a space to vent and talking. There's not any resources for the spouse. And how I really got through that was I had a couple of other women that had gone through that and were encouraging me and really pushing me to get into the Word and get in my Bible and just let God move and speak and work on myself.
Yeah.
And it took a long time for me to realize, and I didn't realize that till probably a year or two ago. And it sounds so cheesy. Whenever he told me, he was like, I couldn't love you because I didn't love myself. And it sounds cheesy, but it made sense to me now on this side of it. And then really truly realizing that this wasn't about me. It had nothing to do with me. His addiction, his affair, anything like that had nothing to do with me. And that was freeing. And that's hard to accept.
Yeah, because you want to carry the burden for whatever reason.
Well, yeah, and it's the highest level of intimacy that's been betrayed on this earth.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to not think this is personal. This is a personal attack on me. And so when I really came to realize that it was probably the most freeing thing for me.
Good.
Yeah.
That's really good. People need to hear that.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to just spring forward. You worked really hard to get through this season, which sounds like it was a long season. And then you made it to 2 Februarys ago, you made it to the conference. That's when we met.
Yes.
But then something tragic happened after this conference.
Yes.
And Andrew got real sick.
Really sick.
Really sick.
So not only have you guys been rebuilding your marriage at home and working through these conferences and learning all about what you can with XO and counselors, but then you throw in, okay, God, in sickness and health and everything.
Literally.
This isn't everything.
Literally.
Yeah. So take us through your trauma that you've dealt with since you've kind of been this new couple where you're working together, and now you got this curveball of illness.
Yes. So when we left the conference, it was February of when?
24.
24.
No, wait.
Yeah, it was February of 24. We left the conference. They had shown our video. We met you.
But rewind a little. A couple of days before, I started feeling like I was coming down with something.
Yes.
And I thought, we cannot miss. So I went and got a vitamin IV infusion, and then we came to the conference and then came back. And
and so when we left the conference, I felt like we both were on fire. We were like, God's doing something crazy in our lives. And we had really been praying about marriage ministry and how that would look and what we could do in the marriage ministry world. And so we left there and we were like, this is awesome. Like, God is doing crazy stuff. And 10 days later, he's on a ventilator fighting for his life. And
what happened?
He,
I mean, you guys are nurses.
yes. So
Did you think you had it figured out in the beginning?
yeah, I mean, it's flu season, February. Everybody has the flu. Our son had the flu. And so
I just thought
he thought, I mean,
whatever.
He's like, I'm running fever. I don't feel good. And so we thought he had the flu. And then it just progressively got worse. And we had him go see a doctor. And then we ended up in the ER. And it just got to the point where it was like, this is scary. I mean, it's bad. And so he had pneumonia. And he went into septic shock and then went into kidney failure and all these things. Yeah, respiratory failure. And so they intubated him and shipped him to another facility. And
That's when he got airlifted.
Yes. And then he was on a ventilator for 8 days and in the hospital for 2 weeks. And I just thought,
27 meds at one point.
I mean, it was crazy. I really thought, this cannot be happening. This is a joke. I mean, I was sitting there and I thought, after everything that we've been through, everything we've, come out on the other side, and we're really trying to further the kingdom, right? We're working with you, God, like we're working for you. And this is it. This is what we're doing. I mean, I was angry.
You learn, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, and it was almost like at one point I felt like God had said to me, I need people to know this is me. This is all me. This is nothing you've done. Like, you can, because people can say, well, y'all got through that because you forgave them, mm-hmm. and y'all, it was on your own accord or your strength or whatever. Him getting through that.
I shouldn't have survived.
Yeah, he shouldn't have survived. Mm-hmm. Getting through that is all God. There's zero explanation other than that was because God wanted him here.
We went back to the hospital 2 months after and walk in the door to see everybody, and they're like, it's a miracle you're walking.
So did they give you a name of what?
So what was going on? I had flu A, I had staph pneumonia that got into my bloodstream, and so I had staph everywhere. And then at one point I went into rapid AFib with RVR and had to be cardioverted. I had
so all this in a chain reaction from
them being septic.
Yeah, flu and pneumonia. Yeah.
And when they got me to the CCU that night, there's 10 people in the room, and she knows every word that's being said of what meds they're giving me and what's going on. And she's thinking, what is going on? And then when she left, they made her leave that first night. And she was walking out the hallway, and the nurse came out and grabbed her and was like, hey, I think I know the answer to this, but I have to ask you anyways. If your husband's heart stops beating, do you want us to do everything we can to get him back? And a couple hours before that, the ER doctor came up to put a central line in me. And he told her, I had a similar situation, same guy, super active, healthy, same age, everything the same. He didn't make it. I'm going to pray for you. And then walked out the room.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I knew it was bad. And I know that the nurse, you have to ask those questions. I've had to ask those questions before. It's just shocking on the other side of it.
It's usually asking, knowing it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Just going, this is
a real possibility. Like, we might have to do CPR on your husband.
Preparing you for your next challenging question.
Yes.
They had to flip me and leave me face down for 18 hours because they couldn't get my oxygen up. There was a lot.
That is a mess. I mean, we were very sick.
Yeah.
But now I know we can see that you're got the breathing,
Your oxygen.
I know, but I won't say it.
Yeah.
That was the word I should use.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, you got this hose up on you.
I call it my nose hose.
Your nose hose on your face. So it looks like, you're on the mend. Will you ever be back to Andrew that you were?
I don't think. From the amount of staph that I had in my lungs caused a bunch of damage and scarring. And so I think we're at a point where this is normal. But that's all right. If I shouldn't be here and I'm here, then I'll take it. Because
That's real good.
when I got out of the hospital, when I got in, I was 220. 12 days later, when they wheeled me out in a wheelchair, I couldn't walk. I was 174 pounds. She had to feed me, bathe me, like I couldn't do anything. And then I get home and my kids come home and they're like,
They didn't
Dad.
they didn't recognize.
And the whole time I'm in the hospital, they
Yes, and you lost all of that.
and medically they want to say that's the only reason I survived was because I had calories to burn.
Well, and yeah, I mean, he was in great shape, and so his body was able to fight. And so one of the doctors did tell me as soon as they got him to the other facility, he was like, if he wasn't in the physical shape that he's in, he wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have even made it this far.
So go work out, people.
I tell people you probably should exercise a little.
Do something.
But
Yeah.
it was hard too for our kids because my in-laws kept them the whole time. And they kept asking them, is my dad dead?
Yeah.
Was he?
How do you?
The girls were 8 at the time. The boys were 13.
Okay.
That's
tough, y'all. Y'all went through a tough season. But I heard you talking as you were telling your story that you guys have wanted to get into like marriage ministry with your story. Have you decided to do that, or have you still put that on hold?
So we kind of do that just in our community at
We have
home.
like a marriage Bible study.
Yeah, we do a marriage Bible study with a group of friends. And we've walked through a couple of the EXO books. And so that's been awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're still looking at options. And I keep telling him he needs to write a book because his life is crazy. I mean, I'll help him.
People wouldn't believe it.
I know.
Well, that's what got me where I'm at. I wanted to write an autobiography, and like people need to hear these stories. And I wanted to have a true story that I could leave my church. Yeah.
Yes.
Here's a legacy story that you can share and create a small group out of it. But
I think if we would have had something like that years ago, I think it would have really helped.
I'm going to give you guys a copy.
Yeah.
One, I want y'all to go through it.
Yeah.
Two, it's written for small group. So that's why it's 13 chapters. So you can make a small group out of it. But yeah, I mean, ideally, yes, of course, I want it to be in every LPC's office, counselor's office, so that they can catch, couples that are going through it. And here's a workbook to do. So I'd be honored for you guys to have a copy of it.
Yes.
What do you feel like? Okay, so if this sickness and in health that you're going to deal with, that you feel like is your life going forward, and you got this marriage ministry, what do you guys have in plan? What are you going to do with this this life you have now? Because you bounce back from infidelity, you bounce back from addiction. You've got different things there that you can use this story to apply to people.
Well, I think the big thing,
a lot of people could be able to relate.
Yeah, the big thing is the Great Commission, right?
Well, I think
disciples, and
we have to keep talking about it.
Yeah, we do. We have to make it a safe conversation, and helping people bring that addiction or whatever into the light, having a safe space to bring it to, and normalizing us talking about these things, because it's been such a taboo subject. Yeah. Especially in the church, like nobody wants to talk about it. And so people just struggle in the darkness and then by themselves. And so I think doing stuff like this, writing books, podcasts, those kind of things where we normalize talking about
hard things.
Yeah. Hard things, struggle.
Throwing it at the church. I mean, you guys can lead a small group doing this. You could do a workshop where you tell your story, and say these are the things that I did, or these are the things that we do now to work on it. Because I need to tell you, like I'm not just because I wrote a book on addiction, not a book on marriage.
Right.
I'm not here to save every marriage.
Right.
I want marriages to be saved, but I just want to express that I am not a marriage guru.
Right.
But I feel like marriages that have addiction or some kind of a story that, they need a tool for that.
Right.
And so that's
There's not a lot of tools.
There's not.
Yeah.
And so I think, just telling our story and being transparent and.
So what's life like now? How are you guys getting along? How's the house?
Crazy. That's what's crazy. It is. It's chaos.
It's good chaos, but
it is fun.
Yeah.
Because you guys own a business together, right? You got a gym?
Yeah.
I have a gym. She teaches at the college.
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to start, I guess, teaching with them some. And then we go back to Denver next month.
Yeah.
To figure out what the next step is.
And then just kids.
What do you expect to hear from Denver?
I don't know. I'm not real sure.
We're trying some different treatment options to try to get him to the highest quality, I guess.
Yeah.
And driving up here, she was like, we need to ask him at what point is a lung transplant the next step.
Yeah.
Because I can get out of breath really quick. Mm-hmm. Like in the shower, get out of the shower.
Yeah.
Like if I don't have this on.
It's lingering from all the things you had to deal with.
It's just a whole bunch of scarring.
Yeah. Well, what I want to do is help you guys as much as I can. So when you get ready to start working with couples, have y'all gone through mediation and got your mediation?
No, we were
scheduled to come, and then I took a helicopter up.
Yeah. And he got
we were planning on that.
Yeah.
Got to get you through.
Yeah.
Got to get you through that.
Yeah.
And then definitely I want to give you some copies of the book. But what would be one thing that you would tell couples that have a story similar to yours, that this is just happening and they just happen to flip to this podcast and they hear your story? And we did dig into all of your story, but if you were speaking to the wife of somebody that's going through what you had to go through, what would you tell them right now?
I would tell her to feel everything. Go through all the feelings. Don't just try to skim over it. Don't
put a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah, don't try to make yourself busy to forget about it. You have to go through all of those feelings, all of those emotions, and know that it's okay to be mad. And there's going to be times where you feel like you're fine and you're fine for a couple of days or weeks, and then all of a sudden you're back at it and you're like, I'm back at square one again, and that's okay. You're going to feel, it's just going to be a roller coaster.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
That's real good. Andrew, what would be one thing you would tell the guy that's already had the issue happen but is trying to make his marriage work?
My biggest struggle was guilt and shame after it all. Like, I know Christ had already forgiven me, but I didn't feel like I had punished myself enough. And for probably 3 years after, I just every day just carried guilt and shame like a backpack. And then I heard a sermon one afternoon, I don't remember who it was, talking about if you're struggling with guilt and shame because of something you've done, you're telling Jesus what he did on the cross was not good enough for this. So, and then I thought, okay, yeah, it was probably enough, so I'm going to let it go.
That is good. So this is good information for you guys to pass on. So I'm going to encourage you to keep talking to married couples. If there's a married couple that's listening to this episode and they want to reach out to you guys, is it okay for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So we'll tag you on all the stuff that we put up. Okay. Perfect. Well, I just want to say thank you both for making the 4-hour trip here.
In Texas, that's not that
far away.
Oh, everything in Texas is
that wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
No. Houston, we might have been like, all right, we'll go, but it's a trip. But
well, I hope you can figure out something to do while you're here. and make, a day date out of it or something. But really and truly, thank you guys for coming for hours to get here to hang out with me. I really and truly appreciate it.
We appreciate you having us.
Yeah. Thank y'all for sharing your story with me.
Thank you.